In this video, we will look at the various operations we can perform on strings in Python. So let us go into Python and see how we can do it in code. Let us create our file for the session. So in the previous tutorial, we looked at strings and we found out that they can be very simple words like this one, like a simple word like hello, and then we of course can print it to the terminal. We saw how to do that also. So when we print word to the terminal, we have no problem because this one looks so simple that we can print it without any problem. But what if the words have to be some which also have quotes in it, because we have gotten to know that we use the quotes either single or double or even triple to enclose strings. So anything that is enclosed in quotes is a string. But what about words like can't? It also in itself has a quote inside. So how do we put these ones also in code without confusing the program that the quote inside the word is not the closing quote? Let's try and then put the word can't in here. C-N-T. And then we see that we have an underline here, red one telling us that probably something is wrong. But let's just forget about it and run our code and see what will happen. Now we encounter our first error. It tells us that there's a syntax error. That means we have violated some of the rules of the language. We have done something that we are not supposed to do. We have typed a certain code in a way that is not supposed to be typed. And then we get this small arrow up telling us that the error is around this line that says word equal to count, and it is around the character T. And you can see this, of course, on line 1. Let's come to the character T and see how we can fix this issue. Well, there's not one way to solve a problem in programming, so I talk of two ways that we can get around this. If the string necessarily has to have a quote inside, we can enclose it now in double quotes. So instead of single quotes, we use double quotes to enclose it, and then that will get rid of the single quote error. So now our line seems to be gone, but let us print it just to be sure. And then now we get our word to our terminal without the error. This is one of the ways to go about it. But what if for some reason it still has to be single quotes? Then how do we go about it? Well, that will introduce us to a new concept we call character escaping. We insert a special character just before the quote we want to escape to tell Python that this next character, which is also a quote, is not the closing quote, the first quote I use to declare my string, but it's just part of the string itself. Don't treat it as the end. Continue. You will find the closing quote at the end. And this special character I'm talking about is the backslash. So when we put a backslash just before the character we want to escape, it will skip it, in this case being the quote, and it will not treat it as the closing quote. Let me just run it now also and see. And see that it runs again without the error. But this one, of course, looks simpler also. What if we have another word like another sentence, like he said, I can't. But how do you put this one also in quotes, like declare it as a string? Because it also have, apart from all the quotes we see here, it should have its own closing and starting code, like the quote that encloses it and makes it a string. Quickly declare another variable here, say sentence equal to, and then here we will use the double quote here. He said, of course, we don't have a problem with that one. And in here we declare another set of double quotes and then I can't. And we see the red underline again telling us that there's something else that is wrong with our code. And we know from what happened not long ago that when we run this, we get into another error. So how do we fix this with a character escaping. Of course, you know that for the single quote style, you may think that one will be simple, but that will also not be simple because there is a single quote in here that is also in the can't. If I change this one to a single quote, then change this one to a single quote, everything seems to be working alright, but we still see one here, and even PyCharm is trying to complete things for me as I type. It is not allowing me to use double quotes for the can't. When I put it there, it is just trying to change the code for me based on what it thinks is best. It now has allowed me to type what I wanted to type. We still can see that just at the T side where the single quote appears again, there is that problem that we are trying to solve. So we can of course not use the single quote here to solve this problem. So what we do is we still maintain our double quote, and then we still use the character escaping to fix this problem. I want you to pause the video for 3 seconds, and then where do you think the special character should be to be able to make this string a valid string? I'll see you in 3 seconds with the answer. Well, let's just go through the solution. So it is just before the character we want to escape. In this case, if you think it is the can't, and then you put it here and you realize that you run it and then it will still give you an error. That's because we escape the single quote, the can't, that quote in can't in the first case doesn't mean that everywhere we see can't, we want to escape it, this is what we do. No. In this case, this is not what we are escaping. It's kind of a string in a string something. So this is the starting quote. And so this type of this one is what will cause the problem inside. What we want to escape is not a single quote in here, it's the double quotes that we use to declare the can't. So I have to put one here just before the closing, the starting quote of the person's speech, the one I reported, which is the I can't, and then one just before the person's speech also ends, because this one's the closing and the starting are not a problem we are dealing with. It is these two which also necessarily have to be there that is causing the problem, not this single quote. So when we run our code now, we will see that everything is printed. Okay, we didn't say we should print the sentence, so let's print sentence quickly. When we try to print sentence, we see that it is printing he said I can't, just as we will see it in or just as we will type in an article or something like that. It might be confusing at first, but try and then work around it. It's not difficult at all. Try several examples and complex sentences, and you see that it's actually not difficult at all. But there's another case where this one will give a problem, and that is when we are writing like some things like path. I know I've not introduced us to path, but a path in Python is just the path to a file. So you have a file or a folder on your computer, you want to know the path, you can declare it as a Python string. Let's declare one. It is not difficult, just follow along. So file path equal to, and then we declare it as a quote. We give the location of the file, that is the address where the file is located on our computer. So if you look at the terminal right now, you will see that there's something here that says goes into my C drive, app data, local programs. This is where Python is installed. So it is calling the python.exe. That is the Python interpreter itself. Every time we run our program, it also calls the file that I'm running. So currently the file is located in my C drive, inside the PyCharm project folder, and the intro to Python, and the string methods.py. So we see it up here. That is the path to the file I am running at the moment. So I'll copy this one from my terminal and then paste this in here. This one becomes the path to a file. That is this file here at the left side here, the file we are currently working with. And it doesn't seem to give us any problem because there are no special characters in there that, when combined with a backslash, can give another meaning in programming. And one of those characters is the small letter n, which is used to indicate new lines in our code. So if I put backslash here, I put n here, you will see that n, before there was no n, and you see that everything is now green, indicating that the string is okay. And when I put n here, or let me just print the file path to show you what I'm talking about. So I can get rid of one of these and print file path. You see that we even have Unicode error telling us that Unicode escape, something there didn't work. It's even special character in our string now, but it's even telling us that there's something else we have to do to make this string valid. And we use something we call raw strings in Python to fix these kinds of errors. We use the letter R here to also do some form of escaping, but in this case it is called a raw string, telling Python that whatever that we have here after the R is, even if there are special characters in it, don't treat them as special characters. I want the full string itself, and then I want to use it. Probably it's a path I want to use in my program. So when I click this 1, 2 and I run, that first error doesn't come again. Now I get the path that I was printing. I wanted to print earlier. Those are the types of escapes we can do on strings to prevent certain errors like that. And so now let us now take a look at the methods we can perform on strings themselves. It was necessary to introduce this one before the methods come in. So one of the key methods we'll be looking out for is called the indexing, or how we can use indexing to slice into strings to print certain part of it only, or if we need just a part of it, how we can get it in order. So quickly I'll select everything now and then delete it, and then we'll start on a very fresh note. Let us create a new variable, of course, the super creative word code base. That will be our new string, so code base. And then we can do what we call indexing, as I said earlier. And then I told you from the beginning that a string is just a sequence of characters. So even though it is one word, we can treat the individual characters as they are, like we can treat them as individual. What if I just want to get one character from this whole word? In that case, I use what we call indexing. I can straight away go ahead and print, and what we do is that we declare the characters, the variable, so in this case word. Then inside this open and close square bracket, we can declare the particular index that we want to print. So what we do in programming is that we start counting from 0. If we print the length of this, we will get 8, of course, because we see 8 characters in here. But when we want to do the indexing, we want to count the indexing, we start counting from 0. So in that case, C will be at position 0, O will be at 1, and then E here will not be at 8, but will be at 7. If I quickly put in here 0, I'll see that when I run it, I'll get C. Let me just put 8 because I just know that it's made up of 8 characters. So, and I get an error that says that string index is out of range. And that is because if we are to print the length, so length of word here, if you have to print the length of word, we find out that it's made up of 8. But I told you that the position, the index starts counting from 0. So of course it will be up to 7 in terms of index. Don't confuse the index with the way we count as humans in almost all things that we do. But what if I want to get a section, so maybe I want to divide it into code and then to base. So what do I do in that case? But I want it as one word, so I want to separate the word into 2 using index. In that case, you have to declare, I want to start from position 0, that is from the C, and I want to end at E. So C is 0, O is 1, D is 2, and then E is 3. But I'll bring a colon before I bring the last index. In this case, I don't have to put exactly 3 here. Even though I know that is 0, 1, 2, 3. it will be the last index minus 1. So if I put 3 and then run the file, I'll get only COD. So if I want to get it up to the 4th, or in terms of index, the 3rd, then I have to put the number 4 here. In that case, I run it and I get code. So it always starts from this one to this one minus 1. If I want to get base also, of course, I have to start from 4, because it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then end at 5, 6, 7 plus 1. So I put 8 here, and then I run, and that will give me base. Initially, they can be confusing, but they are not difficult at all. Just get some few examples and then work your way around it. There is also another type of indexing that we call the negative indexing. That one, we are allowed, if in case we don't know the length of the string, maybe it is created somewhere in our program during the running, we don't know the length of it, but we want to print the last 4 characters or the last character. We have the opportunity to use something we call the negative indexing. So if I do -1, when I run it, it will give me the last character, which is E. When we are counting from the back, that is using the negative indexing, we don't start from 0, like -0. That will not even be possible. So we use the -1. When we are counting the index from the front, we start from 0, but when we are counting from the back, we start from -1. So in that case, if I want the index from -1 probably to the index maybe B, so in that case I'll put a colon there, and then this one is -1, E is -1, -2, -3, -4. So let's put -4 here and see what will happen. It didn't even print it, but let's put 4 there and see. And that is because we cannot do the indexing this way. If you want to print from this part, the base part, all we have to do is that now, even though we are accessing it from the end, so should in any case go this way from left to right. So what we do is we want to access from the -4th index to the last. So in this case, the -4 will rather be here. And then this place, we don't even have to put anything at all. We can leave it this way, and then Python will automatically know that we want to access from the -4th index to the end. When we are doing the negative indexing and our aim is to get to the end, we can just ignore whatever is here, and then work around it. But let's see from -4 to -1 and see. That one also works because -1 is an index that we can access here. But if you want to access from -1 here to -4, you saw that nothing was printing at our terminal. So this is something also that is a little confusing when you are going from the left to right, smaller number to the bigger number. But when you are going from right to left, that is from the end to the beginning, you have to know how to work your way around it, making of course 4 is larger than 1, but you know, when we are counting from the negatives, the bigger numbers with negatives are actually the smallest. So in this case, 4 is the smallest, and then -4 is the smallest, and -1 is the largest. It doesn't work, the negative indexing doesn't work like the positive one. So just know how to not get yourself confused. If you don't know how to use the negative one, just use the positive ones and then go your way. That will be it for this first part of the string methods. In the second part, we look at the built-in types that Python allow us to use, or built-in methods that Python allows us to use on strings. So thank you for your time, and I'll see you in the next video.